less than an edge of the seat thriller as the ferocity of this contest seems to be multiplying every single hour. As the D-Day approaches, both of the candidates, former President Donald Trump and current Vice President Kamala Harris, clashing like gladiators in the Coliseum, are now leaving no stone unturned to win votes. The battle, which is most intense in 7 swing states that are set to hold the key to the White House. It is that very moment in the presidential elections in which everyone seems to be picking a side, and the mighty Elon Musk, who is also openly endorsing Trump. On the other hand, there are global celebrities like Taylor Swift, Jennifer Lopez, Beyonce, George Clooney, Harrison Ford and others who are endorsing Kamala Harris. Now, can celebrity influencers swing the U.S. presidential elections, and how tight is the competition this time in the race to the White House? Let's take a look. Well, in the meantime, let's get in a word from Malvika, who's also joining us live right now. Well, good evening to you, Malvika, there. It's early in the morning here in India, but we are looking at, especially when it comes to multiple angles, the swing seats. And of course, if you can talk about how and why does the Indian diaspora matter so much in the presidential elections?
Well, there are 7 swing states, and like you mentioned, those are going to be the battlegrounds for this election. And that's why both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been focusing their canvassing efforts in those 7 states. And 2 of the states in that region, Michigan and Georgia, have a significant Indian population. And overall, if you look at US, the number of immigrants in the US is not very large. But what makes Indians an influential voting bloc is the kind of influence that they exercise when it comes to their financial power, their position in the society. If you look at the taxes, Indians pay about $250 to $300 billion in taxes alone. That's 5 to 6% of the taxes in the US. And that is why they are a very important voting bloc, and Harris and Trump are both making attempts to reach out to them.
All right. But even when it comes to, the last day of both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, of course, Trump is expected to hold back-to-back rallies as well, whether be it in North Carolina, traveling to Pennsylvania, then West Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Michigan. It's going to be a long, tiring day, but of course, it will be worth it because we're just counting down to hours now, Malvika.
That's right. The elections are going to take place on the 5th of November, and it was clear. I was at an election rally just yesterday, and it is very clear that all the volunteers, all the people who are involved in election canvassing, they have been instructed to go door to door and ask voters to come out, because they do not, especially the Harris campaign, they do not want a repeat of the Hillary Clinton campaign, where it seemed like Hillary Clinton was going to win, and it ended up that Trump turned out to be the president of the US. So they're knocking on each and every door and getting the voters out because it's a neck-to-neck race and nobody wants to take chances.
Well, what's the celebrity factor here working, both in the favor or against? Because Kamala Harris will also be expected to spend the final day before the election at a series of campaign events in swing state Pennsylvania. But she's also expected to join by several celebrities as well. Ricky Martin, Blaze, Oprah. I mean, the list goes on. Lady Gaga also included.
Well, the presence and the existence of Gen Zs who are going to be voting in these elections, they are likely to get influenced by the so-called influencers. And so you are seeing both Harris and Trump focusing on the celebrity prowess to influence these young voters, some of whom might be voting for the first time, and some of whom who are sitting on the edge and still making up their mind.
All right. As we are looking at many of the swing states as well, can you just quickly define on what all these states are, Malvika, and what factors do they contribute? Because any last-minute changes or any last-minute hiccups, it will set the heart beating of both of these candidates, when it goes down the line, when the results are announced.
Right. So the 7 states, there are 7 swing states. One is Arizona, one where immigration is a very big issue because it's a state that also borders with Mexico. You have Pennsylvania, which is very close to Washington, D.C. Then there is a state called Nevada that is in the southern part of the country. And what you are seeing in all of these states, that there are 3 key issues across the spectrum. One is economy, one is immigration, and one is healthcare, abortion rights, especially in the southern parts, such as the swing state of Georgia. There are key concerns regarding abortion rights, because if you remember in the Roe versus Wade judgment, which was overturned by Supreme Court justices that had been appointed by the Trump administration, powers were given to the states to decide whether women can abort their babies, the fetuses, or not. And this has remained a point of contention since the Trump presidency.
All right. As far as Donald Trump himself is here concerned, because he seems to be also raising a slogan, too big to rig, in the run-up to the elections day. But we also talk about why the Indian diaspora, the Indian community, that matters a lot to the race to the White House. There are at least 5.2 million Indian Americans that reside in the United States, nearly 2.6 million Indian Americans that are eligible to vote. This is the second largest immigrant community after Mexicans. And also when it comes to household income, that has doubled of the entire US. More than 700,000 Asian Indians are the ones who are residing in these swing states. But with the election campaigns coming to a close ahead of the all-important presidential polls that are set to take place on the 5th of November, Donald Trump has launched a last-ditch effort to woo the voters in swing states such as Pennsylvania. Now, during this rally in the state, the former US president launched a blistering attack on the current president Joe Biden as well as his opponent Kamala Harris.
Nobody knows where the other guy is. Where the hell is he? Where the hell did he go, David? Where is he? Nobody knows where the hell. Where is Biden? Remember? We used to go, where's Hunter? We used to go, where's Hunter? Now we go, where the hell is Biden? Where's Joe? You know, when you think they stole the election. It was just, they walked in, they said, you're out. Right? That's a threat to democracy. They call me threat to democracy. They stole the election from this guy. Whether you like him or not, they stole the election. They walked in. They said, get out of here, Joe. You're out. You're dead. You're out, Joe. And man, oh, man, he likes me better than he likes her, I really believe. And you have to tell Kamala that you've had enough, Kamala. You've had enough. You're the worst ever. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here.
So right from celebrities to personal digs, we've seen it all, and an attempted, assassination bid that Donald Trump escaped from this very place there, Malvika. But what does it mean, especially when it comes to the Indian diaspora? Donald Trump seems to be urging his supporters to vote for him in large numbers, enough to guarantee that we win more by the margin of fraud. What does it mean?
Well, because it is a neck-to-neck race, and what we are picking up from the various people that we have been interacting with, Donald Trump is hoping that the majority would vote in his favor and that he should be able to get a clear victory and announce the election results, declare himself as the winner on the 5th of November itself. Remember that it can take days before the counting of votes takes place in the US and a formal election result is announced. But Harris's team has been emphasizing that we need to wait it out until all the votes are counted, because everybody is apprehensive about what happened after the election between Biden and Trump, where several thousand people had come out and attacked the US Capitol because Trump had announced himself as the winner, whereas the official result had declared Biden as the winner. So there is this emphasis that Trump is trying to create and lay out, and sort of in some ways just announce himself as a winner even before the election results have come out.
And what about the polls there, Malvika? How are they looking like as far as neck-to-neck fight between the two candidates or the two leaders as we are looking at? What are the polls suggesting?
Well, across the spectrums, the polls say that it's a very tight race and there is no clear winner at this point in time. And that's why you're seeing this last-ditch attempt by both the candidates. They're pulling in on the prowess of all the influencers, all the stars, everything, whether it's from personal digs to official campaigning, all hands on deck here in the US as far as the presidential elections are concerned.
Right, because we are talking about, when it comes to pivotal battlegrounds, when it comes to, say, Arizona and even Nevada, Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are nearly tied for the race of the White House. So exactly what are the polls suggesting, especially when we come to these swing states as well?
So in Michigan, as far as the Indian American voters are concerned, there is a recent poll that came out that several of the Democratic Party's supporters had tilted their support in favor of Donald Trump, primarily because of economic reasons. The state of Michigan is where the auto industry exists. And in that particular state, there has been a lot of unemployment, and inflation has been a big factor, election issue in the state of Michigan. So there we're seeing that the race is tilting in favor of the Republicans, probably, but I don't want to make any guesses. This is all work in progress. People are still voting, and the official voting will take place on the 5th of November. As far as the state of Georgia is concerned, again, Harris supporters, they are saying that Harris and the Democratic Party is likely to win, but the sentiment and the polls that you're talking about are also showing that probably Trump is likely to win in that state as well. But I don't think that we should take these poll results with.
Yes, we can talk about that as far as elections recently that have been held in India. What the exit polls have to suggest has been a completely turnaround.
Exactly.
What the final results have come out. So, of course, it can spring a surprise. But, Malvika, do you mean by saying that this will come as many of the voters have already, cast their ballot, indicating that possibly the number of those who are willing to change their mind is now diminishing?
We cannot say that. About 72 million people have voted so far, as far as early voting is concerned. Remember that there is a concept of early voting in the US, wherein people who may not be able to vote on the 5th of November, that's the official day of election, can in some states go to a polling station and cast their vote. They can even ask for a mail-in ballot, where a ballot is sent to their home. They can cast their vote and send it back through the United States Postal Services. So these results and these polling results are primarily based on that kind of data. So like you were saying, we cannot with certainty and command say, hey, Trump is winning, or hey, Harris is winning. Either one of them can win.
All right, it's down to the line there. We're counting down the hours there. Of course, it's been an all-day coverage on Times Now, as Malvika will be getting us the updates from Washington. Malvika, thank you very much for taking out your time and speaking to us. Good evening and good night to you. As we, in the meantime, talk about the very influential person also that we have spoken to is Raja Krishnamurthy, who is the Delhi-born U.S. congressman, as he was elected to the Congress in 2016 and is now in his 4th term representing Illinois in the 8th district. He serves as ranking member of the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between United States and the Chinese Communist Party, making him the first South Asian American in history to lead a congressional committee. Let's in the meantime listen in what he had to say while speaking to us as we count down when it comes to the US presidential elections.
Hello and welcome to Times Now. I have with me Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. He represents the state of Illinois and he belongs to the Democratic Party, the party which has fielded Kamala Harris as its presidential candidate in the upcoming elections, which are scheduled to take place on the 5th of November. Early voting has already started in some of the states. Congressman, given the early voting trend that we are seeing in some states, who do you think is going to win? Is Harris likely to be the next president of the U.S.?
I think so. I think that the number of women who are early voting is also a sign of enthusiasm among women. And Harris has a big edge over Donald Trump with regard to women. All that being said, I still think that this election is going to be very close. And I expect that, Tuesday night will be kind of a lengthy vote tallying evening.
Sure. And I wanted to ask you about Harris and the way she sees her Indian identity. She has steered clear of any debate on race and identity, so to speak. Yesterday, Donald Trump actually in his Diwali wish mentioned about the atrocities against Hindus in Bangladesh. He has talked about how he has a strong bond with Prime Minister Modi. But we don't see any such comments coming from Kamala Harris, or even a very vocal acknowledgement of the fact that she's from India, besides some time-to-time references to her mother's journey from India.
Well, I happen to know Kamala Harris somewhat well, and I know that she's very proud of her Indian roots. She talks to me about it. She talks to others about it. Her mother brought her up, and so being an Indian woman, her mother inculcated various values, as well as instilled in Kamala and her sister Maya a deep respect for their heritage. All that being said, Kamala Harris is trying to be president of all the United States, not just one portion or one ethnicity. And so I think it's very important for her to speak to kind of issues that resonate with everybody. All that being said, I think her mother's immigrant story is an important part of her own. And I know that she's very, very comfortable and proud to be a Desi.
So why is she not talking about the Desi issues, so to speak?
She is. I've heard her speak about these issues. At the same time, I've heard her speak about a lot of different issues. And what you learn in politics is that victory is about addition and multiplication. And so you have to bring a lot of groups together. You have to talk about the issues that are most common to everybody. And right now, as you know, in America, the most important issues are the ones that are kitchen table topic issues, such as lowering the cost of living, making sure healthcare and education are within reach of everybody, and making sure everyone has a job that enables them to get into the middle class.
But what about immigration as an issue? It is something that's very important for Indian immigrants who are in the US. And we are seeing that there is an uptick in the way, and maybe she's taking a cue from Donald Trump, but Harris has also started somewhat saying that there will be restrictions of some nature put on immigration. Is that only limited to illegal immigrants? And where does India picture, the immigrants from India picture in all of this?
Well, remember, Indian immigrants are among us, and I happen to be one of them. I was made in India. And so, given my own heritage and lineage, I'm very concerned about this issue. I know that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Democrats have been leading in terms of trying to reform our immigration system, making sure that we can, bring more immigrants to this country legally, at the same time cracking down on illegal immigration and securing our border. Remember, Democrats working with a Republican senator named James Lankford came up with a compromise to secure the border, crack down on illegal immigration, and yet Donald Trump stopped it in its tracks, saying that he wanted to deny a victory to Joe Biden. And what he's doing is he's basically running on a problem instead of trying to find a solution to that problem.
But what would these immigration policies that Kamala Harris has in mind mean for Indian immigrants? There are several of them who are waiting in line with their green cards. Some don't have green cards. And of course, there are multiple opportunities back home in India. But there are some who want to tap into the opportunities in the US as well.
Of course. Well, as you know, I'm the sponsor or the author of pretty much every single immigration legislation in Congress right now, including the ones having to do with high-skilled immigration, which affect Indian immigrants, such as the EAGLE Act, which would remove the per-country quota, which otherwise denies Indian immigrants a chance to get a green card in a timely fashion. I'm also the author of the legislation which increases the number of H-1B visas, which unfortunately has not changed in, I think, 30 years. I'm the author of the Emergency Green Card Backlogs Act with Larry Bouchon, a Republican. We've come together and said, look, for all of those unused green cards that otherwise would be discarded because countries like Iceland and others will not fully utilize their quota, let's not discard them. Let's use them for those countries that are oversubscribed, like India. So what I'm hoping is that we can move this legislation forward. Right now, Jim Jordan and the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee.
Harris supports all of these legislations. And if she were to become a president, she would push for reforms in the area of immigration that would benefit Indians. Is that what you're trying to say?
That is, but I'm also trying to say there's a choice here. Republicans are standing in the way of each of these pieces of legislation right now. They don't want any of this legislation to move forward, and that's wrong.
Sure. And I also wanted to ask you that, Joe Biden recently called Donald Trump garbage. And Donald Trump was actually able to use that to his advantage. And then you saw him actually riding on a garbage truck. What do you make of this kind of approach that Donald Trump is adopting? And what is lacking in the Harris campaign? And why is Harris not projecting herself more as a torchbearer for the common man?
Well, first of all, remember this all started in Madison Square Garden, where one of Donald Trump's, I guess, warm-up acts, a comedian of some kind, said that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. And unfortunately, Donald Trump did not apologize for that. And in some ways, his campaign seemed to embrace that, which was very offensive. Joe Biden got on a Zoom call, stumbled. And if you look at the transcript, it's clear to me that he wasn't referring to people as garbage, but as their rhetoric as being refuse. And so in any case, I think that is not what ordinary, everyday people are concerned about. They're concerned about how do you lower the cost of living? How do you make education and healthcare more accessible? How do you get me and my children the jobs that enable them to survive in this economy?
My last question to you is that it's a neck-to-neck race, and you acknowledge that until the D-Day, we do not know who is going to win. But why do you think that Kamala Harris has a fairer chance of winning than Donald Trump? And I'm asking you this because you're from the Democratic Party.
Well, I think that, my take is that Kamala Harris is the best candidate. She has the best character. She cares about making sure that middle-class families have a ladder of opportunity to stay in the middle class, but also to enrich their fortunes. I think Kamala Harris will avoid the chaos and the instability that Donald Trump seems to bring with him wherever he goes. I think that also the last point is, remember, Donald Trump is very proud of having named the Supreme Court justices who stripped millions of women of their fundamental rights with regard to reproductive freedom. I cannot overstate this. When I knock on doors, when I talk to my constituents, I talk to so many Republican women who basically say, don't tell anybody, but I'm not going to support Donald Trump. I want a president who will look out for all the people of the United States, including our daughters, our wives, our mothers, our sisters, and so forth.
I have one follow-up question. What is it about the Trump campaign that makes you insecure?
Well, I think that Donald Trump has been riding a wave of grievance, meaning the reason for your problem is because of that brown guy over there from India, or that brown guy over there from Mexico, or because of that person over there. And unfortunately, that taps into a certain primal type of emotion, which is very, very unproductive and dangerous. But it's something that he has learned to tap. There's an old Native American saying, inside each of us is a good wolf and a bad wolf. And the wolf you become is the wolf you feed. We Democrats and Kamala Harris need to feed the good wolves in people. We need to aspire to their ideals, to their dreams, to what they want to become in America. And I respectfully submit that Kamala Harris is more about average, everyday people achieving their dreams, their American dreams, and Donald Trump is more about litigating his grievances. And that is a very stark contrast.
टिप चाहिए? पैसा लगाना है?